Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hello, this is Kevin L. Jackson, and it's a beautiful day here in Northern Virginia, where I'm excited to be presenting digital transformers on Supply Chain Now. With me today is Scott Luton out of Atlanta. Hey, Scott, it's going to be 80 degrees here in the nation's capital. How are things down south?
Gorgeous. I'm looking right out my office studio here. Flowers are blooming. The squirrels are taking all my bird food, but it is gorgeous.
Wow. I mean, spring has sprung and it's almost summer. I'm looking forward to, everybody's getting their vaccines. We'll be able to get out of the home office. So, wow. And to cap it all off, we're going to talk today about the strategic value hidden in the cash conversion cycle with Jeremy Deuchars of Esker. Can you believe that? Well, I can't get much better than that. Scott.
The king of conversion. That's right. CX, EX, UX, XYZ, digital transformers right here on Supply Chain Now.
Oh, wow. This is exactly why we do this. Esker has a cloud computing platform that uses artificial intelligence to just transform the way customers and suppliers interact. They have found a way to serve customers better by promoting more productive and engaged employees. That really sounds like a transformative undertaking. How do you think they can do that, Scott?
We're gonna find out today, and I think we've got several great stories that will be universal and transferable to what we're all experiencing as we get through, these crazy times that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we can get Jeremy to expose their secrets. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Digital Names by Total Network Services. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to find and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. So now, drum roll, please. I would like to get Jeremy in on the conversation to tell us the secrets behind Esker's success. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey there. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. So tell us a little bit about yourself and Esker. Where are you from?
Oh, about myself. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves? So I'm a Midwestern guy. I've grown up in Wisconsin. I live in Wisconsin here all throughout my entire life. I had a quick stop off in Italy while I was studying in college. But growing up in Milwaukee is very much a blue collar town. Good folks, lots of factories, lots of beer.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very important in my upbringing where I grew up. A lot of who I am today just kind of stems from being a kid and picking up all the things that I did and now using them as I venture outside of Wisconsin and start talking to folks both across the U.S. and internationally as well.
Mm.
Oh, I'd like to have some more anecdotes about your upbringing, but the first question I have is what was in your bottle? Was it beer or milk?
A little bit of both. It was kind of like a milk with a beer chaser.
All right.
Well, so really quick, I believe that Harley Davidson is based in the greater Milwaukee area, as is the big brand Briggs & Stratton. Some of our listeners may not know that. Milwaukee, like you said, Jeremy, big industry town, a lot of hardworking, good folks. So I'm looking forward to hearing how that does impact how you do and what you do day in and day out.
Yeah, you got it. Lots of big industry, lots of history. And some of those places have moved on to greener pastures, but there's still a strong foundation of those businesses, those organizations, and the people that really make them go.
Well, you said you were in Italy for a while. So is that where you got your classical art background? So tell us a little bit about that. See, I've been doing my research.
Yes, exactly. That's that was really the culmination of my art education. So as you can imagine, kids, they don't pick up a crayon and start writing Tolstoy's War and Peace. It's more or less drawing stick figures and whatever is really their big interest. So that was no different from me. But I eventually dropped the crayons and started picking up some more sophisticated art media, and really focused on drawing, painting, and then got the opportunity to go to Florence and work on restoring some 16th century Italian paintings. So, they trusted me enough to to not do any more damage to the work that was there. And there's so much art. And so it's so old that they've got warehouses and churches and any kind of facility full of these things. So they let the youngsters work on it, so I was 19 years old and really shaping the restoration of these priceless paintings.
How stressful was that?
Well, not very, because you always had a master kind of walking around, a master restorer, making sure that you weren't doing too much damage. But it's really an honor, and it just kind of makes you think that you're kind of a small speck in the grand scheme of our history as a human species. So it is very humbling.
God, there's so many questions, so little time on this, Kevin. But there's a lot of reasons I love hearing this story. It came up in our pre-show conversation. There's something for everybody in global supply chain and global technology, whether you study classical art or if you come from a STEM background or whatever it is. We need all, and folks, the creative thinkers. Gosh, we need that in scores to solve some old and new challenges. So I love hearing that about your background, Jeremy. One final question before we talk your professional journey. Do you still dabble in art beyond crayons today?
I do. In fact, my office here at home, which is where I am, kind of doubles as my art studio. So what you guys are viewing is just kind of the plain business background. If I were to flip my camera around, you'd see a little bit more interesting images and paint supplies and art tables and things like that. So we'll keep it professional, but I do try to maintain that. And if I'm on a plane traveling for work, sketchbook always comes with me. It's a good way to kill 2 to 3 hours on a plane.
Love that. Didn't they do a lot of nudes in classical art? Whatever, man. We digress.
It's different series. However, we are going to get Jeremy to paint us a picture indeed, more on the technology side. So more to come on that momentarily. But first, Kevin, let's get a sense as we continue to kind of get a sense of Jeremy's perspective and context and really worldview. So Jeremy, professionally, talk to us before your current role. Talk to us about a couple of key positions that help shape that worldview.
Yeah. It was a journey indeed. As you can imagine, there's not a huge market out there for the starving artist. So coming out of college, I had quite a few different jobs that eventually led me into technology. In my first big job in technology was working with a company that provided both hardware and software solutions to companies of all sizes. And it was really focused on working with the IT departments and developing their infrastructure. Back then, cloud was just starting to get going. So I really got to see how people in these companies were really either gravitating toward the idea of kind of letting some of their infrastructure and their architecture go and lean on some of these early cloud providers. But I saw the flip side of it too, where people they don't want to let it outside of their four walls. So they start to close up, and then it ultimately puts more burden on them as professionals in IT, and it makes their lives a lot more demanding.
Yeah, those server huggers, right?
That's right. That's right.
New term. I'm going to write that one down, Kevin. I learn something new every time I rub elbows with.
I do like that. I do like that. Negative and positive connotation right there.
Yes, that's right. All right. So anything else you want to share about previous positions before we talk about that proverbial eureka moment?
Yeah, as I grew through my career early in IT, I really got a sense of what was really driving people, and a lot of it back then was IT ruled the roost. They said, this is what you can have, this is what you can use, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But as time went on and there started to become more consumer devices out in the market, we saw a lot of C-level executives saying, I have this in my personal life. This is really cool. I want to use it at work. So they more or less went to IT and said, you will put this on our network, you will support it. And that really started the boom of what I'm seeing today now is business is driving, and they're really looking to their IT colleagues to help support their initiatives. So it's opened up a lot of what companies are doing, because it's not so much tunnel vision, and that's nothing against IT folks, but they tend to be very focused on what's going to be stable, what's going to be easy to support, and really that can end up limiting what the business could be capable of if they have the right tools in place.
Yeah, that consumerization of IT really removed the blinders, so to speak, for the IT teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said. Okay, so you kind of touched on some critical lessons learned in your last few comments there, but what else really sticks out as a powerful eureka moment as part of this professional journey of yours?
That's a tough one, Scott. I wasn't ready for that. One moment, honestly, I don't think there was one moment. The key for me was always just keeping my eyes and ears open and paying attention to the little things. And the sum of those is really what started to hit home for me. So it was necessarily a one, hey, do you know the exact time and date? No. It's been a career of, 15 plus years of basically trying to be a student of wherever I am. And some of that goes back to my art training, because you really are more or less an observer. Not so much the actor, but the casual person that sits and tries to learn. And that has led to, where I'm at now with Esker, and basically seeing what people are capable of, even when they look to scale that kind of thing, whatever they're trying to do out to a global stage.
Seek ye first to understand. I'm not sure whoever said that first, but Jeremy, you strike me after several conversations we've had with you as a true student of whatever organization you're trying to help. Go in there and understand the current state, understand the objectives, and apply technology in a practical way, not the latest bell, whistle, or gadget. So I bet folks appreciated that about you.
I hope so. That's kind of what I strive for. At the end of the day, it has to be their choice, not mine. And I'm merely there to lend some insights, some experience, and then put it out to them as to what they think is going to be the best move for them next. Love it.
Okay. So before I toss it back over to Kevin, of course, Esker is your organization. I want to, for the three folks that may not know about Esker, I want to make sure folks understand what the company does, because y'all have received, going back here just recently, a number of different awards. Food Logistics 2020 Top 100 software providers, software and technology providers, and several others here just in the month of April. So clearly you're all being recognized for what you do. But in a nutshell, what does Esker do?
Yeah, well, thanks for the few plugs there. I appreciate that. I'd like to say it was all me, but
of course.
Well, I'm.
Where's your ribbons? Where's your ribbons, Jeremy?
So I get all the attention. So where organizations are really leveraging the technology that we're offering is on the order to cash and procure to pay cycles that every company, no matter how big, how small you are, doesn't matter your industry, you've got back office processes. If you're a large company, you probably have back office processes from one location to another that look nothing alike. So where folks are looking to use this type of artificial intelligence process document automation is to help streamline their processes, create some consistency across the board, take away a lot of the manual tasks that are involved in a day-to-day accounts payable or customer service role. Back to IT, we're trying to take some of the burden off of them, and that's where people are really recognizing a lot of value is having one cloud platform that they can use to really drive a lot of what keeps their business going. Yeah, I hate to use the term lifeblood, but it is pretty appropriate because that's if you don't have cash coming in and going out, you're really going to struggle for a bit.
Out of luck. It absolutely is lifeblood, whether you're a small business, medium business, or a global empire. So I like that analogy. But Kevin, where are we going from here?
Yeah, I think that's important. But one thing, we were talking about how the history of business, so to speak, and before the consumerization of IT, that was a world where the customer was always first, right? And whatever the customer said, the customer was always right. And it was employees be damned, right? But I was really impressed by one of the earlier conversations we had where, Esker is really focused on optimizing both the customer experience and the employee experience. And maybe many other organizations are following your lead in that. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the customer experience versus the employee experience in order management, digital order management, and how you use the cloud to optimize on both of those?
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing that such a simple concept has really taken a while to catch on. From my perspective, if you're not keeping your customers happy, if you're not keeping your vendors happy, nobody's going to want to work with you. So it really boils down to something as simple as that. And just this year, I heard a term, and it was actually shared with us by the CEO of our company. It was positive sum growth. And, it's amazing that you talk about a eureka moment, Scott. That's it for me right there. I'll say that it is really just putting a name to a concept that we've really been trying to drive home with people that are taking a look at this type of technology in the marketplace. And what it boils down to is that there's enough good to go around for everybody. If I'm running a company and I buy into a solution or bring a tool in, yes, it's going to help my people that are actually using it. But what about the other departments in the company? Can they benefit? Yeah, absolutely. What about our customers externally? What about our business partners? So it's really this whole idea of we can help one another be successful, and it doesn't have to be solely focused on this one department or this one person. So really, that's been an awakening for me, is that, oh yeah, okay, now it's catching on. I even Googled it. I was like, oh, is that an original or did he find that somewhere? And you Google it and you find some articles, you find some thought leadership pushing that term around. But I think it's really going to catch on now because coming out of this pandemic that we've all really had to struggle with. I'd say the only way the vast majority of companies are going to survive and then start to flourish again is if we are thinking about one another. There's no monopoly when, the entire economy crashes down around you. What are you going to monopolize? You're going to,
right.
There's nothing there. So I'd say that's been a pretty big driver for people looking at these order to cash and procure to pay tools. They just may not know it.
So one of the things that we're seeing in the business environment is the growth of the term ecosystem, and that replying to the fact that you operate in a business ecosystem with customers and suppliers, and even in many areas with your competitors. And it's sort of a dance of communications and data. So it seems to me that this digital order management is a way of communicating, exchanging data across your ecosystem. Is that in line with the way you see it?
Yeah, I think that's right in there, and you have these platforms that people are really drawn to, because, and I'm going to go back to my art training again, and if I'm boring you with this,
No.
let me know. But for myself in my own personal life, I look at my role in what I'm doing, and whatever I'm doing is try to be a Renaissance man. Try to be an expert in as much as you can, but know that you're never going to get there. So there's this whole concept of continuous improvement. And I apply that to what I see out there in the business world. IT, business, it makes no matter what role you play in your company. You want singularity in terms of unified tools. You want consistency. So it doesn't matter what job you perform, you want a platform. And I think that's why some companies do really well when they offer tools that span the entire need of an organization, not just being a one-trick pony where it's, well, we do this really well. Because then what happens is companies have to buy into them, and then they got to go elsewhere to fill a gap in somewhere else within their organization. So I think that really order management and digitalization of that process goes beyond just taking orders in, fulfilling orders. There's so many other areas and so many other people that those processes touch, that if you can find a way to reach them, now you've got a secret sauce.
Yeah, it sounds like it's all about that transparency and visibility into the process. What do you think about that, Scott?
I think it's table stakes for doing business these days. Not only do business leaders and employees and team members demand it, but perhaps even more importantly, consumers demand it. So I love your take, what you're sharing here, Jeremy. And we'll talk as much classical art as you like. Kevin's middle name is Leonardo, by the way. You may not know that. But I think that there are so many parallels. I think, I mean, it really is fascinating, because we've got to be so creative in how we design and how we engage and how we meet the consumer where they are, and how they want to conduct business. And by the way, there are so many great challenges. Again, those that have persisted forever, that we still can't quite solve or not even come close. And then those that pop up, like so many new ones have popped up as we've shifted to remote work, or as we've shifted to the fight against COVID-19, or whatever it is. And then whatever it'll be in 2022, the curveballs, the only guarantee is that they keep coming. You're just not sure exactly in what form or fashion. So I love, we'll keep talking this classical art angle, because there's so many important transferable lessons learned to digital transformation and supply chain.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
I was just I like the fact that you use the term creativity, because it's extremely relevant. And I think if you can look at things in different ways, that's where you come up with business solutions that are really going to help drive to your bigger picture goals, exceeding revenue goals, margin goals, driving cash flow and things like that. Leaders, they have to be focused on that, but there's so much more that falls underneath it. And I think the only way to get to those apexes is really to think about, how can we do it different? How can we not settle in? So kudos to you. That's a good word.
Well said. So Kevin, I think we're going to, there's a couple, and Jeremy's kind of touched on a couple different examples when it comes to CX and EX, right? Customer experience and the employee experience. But is that where we want to go next? Kind of share some deeper examples?
Well, one of the things I was thinking, I really like the term, he called himself a Renaissance man, right? You know, and in your role as you are working with your customers, do you lead them through a renaissance? How does Esker help its customers in reinventing their own processes?
Yeah, I'm going to clarify one thing though, Kevin, is I'm trying to be a Renaissance man. I think that's just kind of a lifelong journey that,
continuous improvement, as you say, right?
Exactly. So, but yeah, absolutely. That's what, that's the way I approach working with people. And I'll tell you a quick story of a customer that, manufacturing industry, had a pretty decent sized group of customer service reps, up in the mid 20s. Mm-hmm. And my first visit on site, I'm talking to the director of that group, and he says, look, I told everybody you were coming, you're going to be doing some observation, give us your insight at the end of the day. But I didn't tell them, I told them you were from a paperless company, not an automation company, because they hear automation and they go,
oh, my job,
the robots are going to take over. And, it's okay. All right. And that's where I think that was a big miss on that individual's part in trying to socialize that automation is creativity. It's change, but it can really be good change. But he used it more of we're going to dodge that and then drop a bomb on them later if we decide to go with you, and let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. So yeah, I think if you don't get people starting to think about change in a positive way, because nobody likes it. We have heard that over and over. But if you can get them to start realizing that, if we just shift our perspective a little bit, it's going to be good for me. It's going to be good for my coworkers and my customers. And really that's the whole goal. If you're really going to invest thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in technology, you want it to reach, and not just impact one person. So really it's just kind of opening your mind, if you will. And with spring in full bloom, I think that's a great parallel and something that we can all relate to at this point.
Yeah, I think it's always about getting humans to do what humans are good at, and that's using their mind, using their brain, using their imagination, striving to become that Renaissance person, as opposed to the drudgery of what robots do. Mm-hmm. I always think of it that way, that IT releases the human to do human things.
A powerful visual.
Yeah. It's a great way to think about it. And I tend to do that myself. So yeah, let the robots do what they're good at. Let the people do what they're good at. And it's really so much more than what the robots are good at. And, give it 20 years and maybe the robots will catch up, but I still doubt it.
Well, so let's talk about remote working and the impact that can have on businesses. I think you've had a lot of experiences there, and y'all see that regularly with your customers, right?
Yeah. For a lot of companies, they were thrown into the lion's den when CDC and whoever else in public authority and health said you can't go into offices and work, so you got to be home. And there were some people that had set themselves up for remote working, leveraging cloud tools as many as you can. That's a great way to do it. But there were some companies that were, they lost days, some even weeks of productivity because they didn't have the IT infrastructure built up for their employees to work at home. Now, once they did, and then factoring in the people that were set up right away, everybody I've talked to has said, they're thriving. They're working. Maybe their hours are a little off, because they're not 8 to 5 strictly, but they're productive. They're getting what they need to do during the day, but then they're spending a little time on their own, unprompted, taking time away from their personal life, their families, their friends, and doing a little bit of work just because they have the ability to do that at home. So, right. Even before this, we scratched the surface with work from home hours that teams had to earn. It was like a gift. It was right. a privilege. And with what happened over the past year, it was a necessity. And I think people are finding that it's definitely possible, and it's with the help of certain technologies out there that offer that work from home experience. It's really been a good thing for business.
Well, you're talking, once again about the employee experience. Do you think that is here to stay? How should people look at this post-COVID world? Are we going back to quote normal, or is this work from home thing now the new normal?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting tightrope to walk, because while you've got happy people able to work from home, if you're in a bigger city, you're cutting out your commute, you're able to spend more time, with friends, family, because you don't have that 2-hour long drive.
Right.
But I think the risk is you might start to sacrifice or see a degradation of teamwork. We've got webcams, we've got good audio devices, but looking at a 2-dimensional screen and try to relate to your coworkers or share ideas, it doesn't always work, because you can't talk, you can't interrupt. Everybody's kind of let me talk, pause, and then somebody else can talk. I know we've all done the Zoom happy hours, and they're fine if that's your only option. But I think once offices can start opening up, we'll see a small exodus of people out of their homes back into the office. And I think that's a good thing, because I definitely don't want to see everybody, in their sweats working from home and losing that team vibe that is really important. And depending on what your role is at your company, mm-hmm. It's really a key thing that shouldn't be overlooked, in my opinion.
Mm. So, Kevin mentioned earlier about IT is unleashing the beast and letting, humans really explore the art of the possible, essentially. However, kind of not exactly the opposite, but on a different foot. How can we take some of the pressure off IT's plate? Because they've got, the IT pros, the technologists, the smart people like Kevin and Jeremy here. They're powering so much right now, right? You gotta hug on your servers, as Kevin said earlier, because everyone's depending on it. Jeremy, how have you seen companies and business leaders and solutions take some of that pressure off these IT plates?
Yeah, I think people are being really smart and really careful about how they migrate into cloud applications. Now, you've got the big well-known companies out there that are offering platforms for their workers, and it's almost a no-brainer to invest in those different types of technologies. But what I see is people going into this journey with a thought process of, this is a big change. We're not going to enter into it lightly. We're really going to do our research on what's available in the market. But ultimately, it is going to come down to who's a solid player, who's got industry experience, who's got connectivity and strong platforms that are going to be able to help me in just more than one area of my business. And those are the players that are really going to get a good look from companies out there. So yeah, I've seen it where even companies that I had been working with for years, they're always taking a look. They're always curious as to what else is out there, and they should do that, because they may find something that's a better fit for them. But because that's happening, I think a lot of the companies that started off saying, we're going to offer this one tool that's going to help you in this one little facet of your company, start to say to themselves internally, what else are we going to do? And I had an executive in IT leadership come into a company. She was brand new, and she wanted to talk with me about, all right, what have my colleagues and what are my predecessors really talking to you about? What about this order automation process that they're looking at? So we had a nice chat, and I said, well, this is what's been looked at. And after that, she said, what else can you do?
What else you got for me?
Yeah, I think that's very telling.
Well, as Esker is leading the industry, how do you deal with change with your customers? How are you answering that question? What have you done for me lately?
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that the core of it comes down to really understanding what our customers and what prospective customers are really looking for. we don't do anything in R&D development without getting real world feedback from our customers or other people that are just taking a look at us. And I always tell people, hey, you're taking a look at us. My sales cap is off. I just want to listen, and you tell me, are we driving down the right lane here? Are we starting to hit the mark with what you would really need in a real world situation? And that it's nice. It really gets them engaged, and it starts to be a free flowing conversation of ideas rather than just a sales pitch and a prayer for a sale. So that's where we really focus on is just listening to what those folks are saying, and then keeping up on just market publications, listening to what Gartner and the other big industry analysts have to say. That really is our spirit guide when we're trying to figure out, well, how do we develop, or how do we better our solutions to meet these real world needs.
Well said. Okay. So we've talked a lot about different illustrations that you're seeing as it relates to the CX, the EX, the UX, you name it, especially from that digital order management standpoint. Let's go a little bit broader here as we start to wind down on the conversation. What else have we not talked about here today that you're really tracking and got your finger on the pulse of when it comes to global business?
Well, what I see is a big miss and opportunity with a lot of people is getting that change agent to step in and say, okay, globally, what are we doing? And, it's almost a little bit like a culture war. You see from one region of the world to another, they've got their processes, they've got the companies they like working with. And you never like to be the guy that comes in and boots out a solution or a vendor or a partner that is really doing some good work. But in service of trying to unify organizations globally, or even looking at the SMB space with smaller type companies, you want to set those folks up for a good trajectory and growth, because as you scale, it's easy to say, well, we've been doing it this way for 10 years and we've been successful. So I think that's something that a lot of forward thinkers, but it's hard to find those in some cases, to be honest. They're looking at things in that way, but that's where I see a lot of, you hit it, Scott, with X as the common denominator, experience. Do you want people to have the same experience just as they have for years and years and years? Or do you want to maybe push the envelope a little bit and say, we're going to try something new, and it's going to change your experience, but we'll find out if it was worth the endeavor. So I think that's a big thing. But then also, I'd mentioned earlier, taking a look at a process like sales order processing. What else is happening in that department? Customer service, account management. They're not just placing orders. They're taking quote requests. They're tracking. They are trying to upsell. So I think where the leaders in technology offerings when it comes to automation are really doubling down is that whole what else attitude. What else can we do? What else do people need? And I think that's definitely something I'm expecting to see more and more is people asking, well, what else can it do? Because you may be solving my current problem, but how are you going to help me track toward this bigger vision that I have? Because things are going to go wrong in the future. Things are good. You're going to get those curveballs. It's inevitable. But if you've got your mind positioned for, well, okay, I know it's coming. So what can we do to prepare? Those are the ones that are going to succeed now for the next 10 years before something happens.
Sounds like you need some more digital transformers on your team.
We do. Yes.
Well, it sounds like that. And it also sounds, we're reaching the holistic hour of the information age. And as Jeremy's pointing to, rather than than this tiny solution that helps these 3 people here, or this bell and whistle that helps this department here. We've got to really embrace and view the system at the systems level, right? Upstream and downstream. What's the holistic solution that's going to answer that question? Well, what else you got? So, Jeremy, I love hearing your perspective. But Kevin, that's just some of what I'm hearing Jeremy say. What else are you hearing, Jeremy? Tell us.
Well, he was talking about the experience and also the communication up and down the chain. I think the consumer experience and the employee experience, they both depend upon a communications channel that's established, a clear communications channel that's established between the two. And no matter what product or service that you're delivering, giving both sides visibility and transparency in what's going on with respect to the supply chain, the delivery processes, where the products are coming from, where they're going. I think it's, in the end, it's all about that communication. And when you have a service or offering that's ubiquitous, like cloud, that the cloud services that Esker is delivering, I think that's where the world needs to go.
Yeah, it's becoming table stakes, undoubtedly. Okay, so Jeremy, I'm sure, especially y'all two, Jeremy and Kevin, could talk digital transformation for hours to come, but we got to kind of pull up for now. But let's make sure folks know how to connect with you and the Esker team, Jeremy. So how can folks compare notes with you?
Yeah, Esker website is a great way. There's always that lovely contact us form that we'd love to have folks go and visit and put their info out there. There's also a lot of good information on the website. It's esker.com, esker.com. It's a good way to get in touch with us. It's also a good way to do a little bit of research on your own. It's so big with folks now, they don't necessarily want you involved in that first phase or first step of the process, which is fine. So there's an opportunity to do that with all kinds of goodies and downloads and things like that. So I'd say the main way, eventually you might get routed to me. And if you do, then I'll be happy to talk to you. Otherwise, I've got many capable coworkers that are also chomping at the bit to learn and talk to folks out there and see what their experience is and see how they could use our help.
So I guess that's Renaissance Man at eskers.com. Right? Oh.
Yep, you got it.
Thank you for that info, Jeremy.
Absolutely. So we're going to make it easy, Kevin. We're going to make it really easy. So, of course, esker.com is the site that Jeremy's talking to. We're going to drop a lot of links in the show notes so folks have that one click to connect. Also, Kevin, we've got an awesome webinar coming up in July. How often do you hear awesome webinar in the same sentence? But
oh, no.
But this is really going to be, the cloud space and order to cash and all the things that makes that happen in this current era. There's a ton of thought leadership and best practices. We're going to dive in deeper in a webinar the last week in July, and we're going to make it easy. We're going to put a link to that webinar to sign up for free in the show notes of this podcast episode as well. So, Jeremy, it has been a pleasure to have you here on Digital Transformers with our fearless leader, Kevin L. Jackson, here at Supply Chain Now, and really appreciate your perspective. One final question before I toss it back over to Kevin. How are the Brewers going to finish up this year, this baseball season?
Well, I think we've got a full season, 162 games. That'll take us to the World Series. So I'm calling it right here.
Man.
Oh, wow.
Going bold. I like that.
We've been nipping at the heels of those playoff contenders. So I think this year could be the year.
So
outstanding.
I'm going to write that down, and we're going to have you back to see.
That's right.
Support your call there.
That's right. We're going to have to
in October.
We're going to have to bet a Butterburger on that prediction there, Jeremy. But we'll save that for next time.
All right.
Jeremy Deuchars with Esker. Yep. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Yep, we seem to be out of time, so I'd like to thank and invite everyone to check out a wide variety of industry thought leadership at supplychainnow.com. And you can find this and other podcasts. Please, wherever you subscribe on your podcast, please click that supplychainnow.com. And don't forget Digital Transformers. So on behalf of the entire team here at Supply Chain Now, this is Kevin Jackson and Scott Luton, wishing all of our listeners a bright and transformational future. We'll see you next time on Digital Transformers.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.